Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Do you think you need a budget? Well, if you're like most people, you probably said yes to that question, as 93% of Americans believe that everyone should follow a budget. But even though nearly everyone says that following a budget is a good plan, not everyone does. In fact, when Mint surveyed people, they found that 65% of people actually have no idea how much they spend throughout the last month. So that definitely speaks volumes to the discrepancy between people who say, yes, I know people should be following a budget, and the number of people who actually do. Because if you follow a budget, you know what is happening with your money. In fact, 83% of people say that they overspend on their budget on a regular basis. But if you're overspending on your budget on a monthly basis or on a regular basis, you could make the argument that you're not actually following a budget, or at the very least, your budget needs some work. Sure, there's going to be months where you're over budget, and there should be months where you're under budget. But if you're chronically over budget on a regular basis, your budget needs some work. Now, I'm a firm believer that finance is personal. How you approach managing your money and spending and investing and saving for your future goals is going to be personal to your situation. But no matter what your situation is, you need to know what is happening with your money. And that starts with a budget. But the good news is there are a lot of different budgeting styles out there. So no matter how you approach it, there's a budgeting style that can work for you. As for the top reasons people say they don't follow a budget, some say it's because they don't make enough money. Others say it's just too time consuming. Or even others say it wouldn't help them manage their money any better even if they did. Now, I think all of these excuses are just that, excuses, especially that last one. Because if you are deliberately focusing on improving your money management skills, inevitably you're going to get better at it. For those who are finding it difficult to stick to a budgeting tactic, maybe it's just they haven't found a budgeting style that works for them. So I thought it'd be fun to go over some of the most common budgeting styles out there and maybe shine some light on ones that could work best. A traditional budget might be the first thing that comes to mind when you first think of budgeting. It's simply listing all of your income sources and all of your expenses item by item and listing them as you incur them. The goal here, as with all budgeting styles, is to have an income that is higher than your expenses. So by the end of the month, you want a positive number. A negative number means that you went over budget and means that you need to evaluate your expenses for the coming month so you don't go over budget next time. With a traditional style budget, the emphasis really isn't on separate categories. It's more so on meticulously tracking every single expense. So if you like getting into the nitty-gritty details, this style of budgeting could work for you, because every time you go out and buy a Starbucks coffee or make a late night purchase on Amazon, you simply add that as your next line item in your budget. It could also really work well for someone who has variable income or, say, a freelancer, because you really only account for your income or your expenses as they hit your account. A zero-based budget is my personal favorite budgeting style. With a zero-based budget, every single dollar is given a job to do. So you start out the month, you consider your income sources, and every single dollar gets assigned a task. Maybe that's going towards your mortgage, maybe that's eating out, or maybe it's simply going towards saving or investing. But the point is, by the time you hit the end of the month, you are left with zero. The big difference between zero-based budgeting and other budgeting styles is that there's never any money left over. If you have money left over at the end of the month, that just means you haven't given this money a job yet. So if the month is coming to a close and you have $150 left over, you have to give this $150 a job. Maybe you put it towards investments, or maybe you decide to go out and have fun with this $150. Doesn't matter what you do with it as long as you give it a job. Because by the time that month gets to a close, you should have $0 left, meaning every single month you start with a brand new budget from scratch. I personally really like this budgeting style because I like giving every single dollar a task to do. I feel like it allows me to make the most efficient use of my dollars. It's no dollar left behind. The 50-30-20 budget focuses more on the overall picture, allocating 50% of your income towards your needs, think housing, food, or transportation, 30% of your income towards your wants, think entertainment, shopping, or travel, and 20% of your budget towards debt repayment and short and long-term savings goals. I think the really great thing with this budgeting style is that it can work for any income because it's percentages based. You just base the percentages off what your income is. And also a really nice thing is that as your income grows over time, you get to spend a little bit more in each category, and you also get to save a little bit more. And I love a budgeting style that encourages you to save more as your income increases. And let's face it, not everyone enjoys meticulously tracking every single expense. Not everyone finds the joy in budgeting. But that's where the 50-30-20 budget can help, because you just broadly define these categories. Then once you assign the dollar amounts to each category, you can simply spend as you see fit. The 80-20 budget is similar to the 50-30-20 budget, but it's even more broad. With the 80-20 budget, you simply start out the month by allocating 20% of your income towards savings or investments, both your short-term and your long-term goals, and then the remaining 80% is for you to do whatever you wish with. So basically, this style of budgeting just ensures that you're saving that 20% of your income. Then after that, there really aren't any categories, and you can spend your money as you wish. And this style of budgeting works well for those who find budgeting stifling and they just want freedom to spend their money as they wish. Because as long as you're checking that box on saving and investing for your future, it means you're living well within your means and you're kind of all set. This style of budgeting really works well for people who find themselves in extreme situations as well. Like maybe you live in a really high cost of living area, or based on your family dynamics, maybe say childcare expenses make up a really big percentage of your income. In either of these situations, your essentials category might make up a really big portion of your income, so you're going to have to shrink your wants category. Or maybe you're on the flip side. Maybe you live in a very low cost of living area and your housing expenses are very low. This allows you to shrink your essentials category and expand your wants category. This style of budgeting gives you a lot of fluidity. Most of the time when we think of budgeting, we're thinking about our spending habits. With a reverse budget, you're not really focusing on your expenses so much as focusing on your savings habits. So you're prioritizing your investing and your saving, and then any sort of expenses are really secondary to that. Oftentimes, a reverse budget is called paying yourself first. This tactic is really good for those who are super savers or have really aggressive savings goals. Maybe they're chasing financial independence or have hopes of an early retirement. This group is generally going to have a more aggressive savings rate. So the first thing they want to do is hit that savings rate. Then once they hit that savings rate, with whatever money they have left over, they're welcome to spend as they see fit. And you can absolutely personalize this to your situation. Let's say you're an aggressive saver and say you have a target savings rate of 50% of your income. Well, you would just take your income, allocate 50% towards your investments right at the start of the month, then allow yourself the freedom to spend what's left over after hitting that aggressive savings goal. Chances are you've seen cash stuffing as a budgeting tactic online this year. It has become the latest trend in budgeting, and I love that budgeting is trending. I mean, let's take a moment for that. But while it may have a fancy new name, cash stuffing, it has been around for a while, formerly known as the envelope system. When it comes to cash stuffing, you're literally taking cash and putting it into an envelope earmarked for a certain expense. Think internet, transportation, groceries, rent, things like that. Cash stuffing is really the most physically involved budgeting style, as you're literally divvying out cash into each category. Ideally, you would do this a month in advance or at the start of each month. So you're going to divide out your cash into each spending category. Then once the money is spent for that category for that month, it's gone, and you'd have to wait till the next month before you could spend in that category again. I think this budgeting style can be really useful for those who are new to budgeting, as using cash has a way of really making you feel your spending. It makes spending feel real. It can also be really good for those who have a propensity to overspend, because it gets rid of credit cards, and once you've spent the money from that category, it's gone and you don't get to spend in that category again until the next month. I do see this strategy as more time consuming though, so I think that can make it hard to stick to long term. Priority-based budgeting really focuses on what is important to you. And everyone is going to have different priorities, and your priorities are likely to change throughout the course of your life. So I do really like that this style of budgeting has a touch of personalization to it. If you're someone who's trying to tackle a lot of debt, perhaps you build a budget around aggressively paying off your debt. So that would mean the first category you would address when you set up your budget is debt repayment, and a significant portion of your income is going to go towards paying down your debts. And this style of budgeting might work well for, say, someone who's following the Ramsey baby steps and trying to get out of debt quickly. Just as easily, though, this style of budgeting could work for someone who's saving up for a short-term goal. Maybe you're saving up for a down payment on a home, so you're allocating a greater percentage towards your short-term savings in this situation. Whatever your situation may be, your priorities are going to ebb and flow throughout your life, and following a priority-based budget allows you to put those priorities as the very first line item in your budget. Then you can focus on any needs or wants after that priority is met. There are dozens of apps, scratch that, probably hundreds of apps out there that you can use to automate your budgeting. And with a lot of these apps, you simply link your bank account and then the app does most of the work for you. And most of these apps are probably going to follow one of the previously discussed budgeting tactics, but there are a lot of different ones, so you just find the one that works for you. And the cool thing about the app version is that it really automates everything, so there's not much for you to do on your end. I feel like the easier the budgeting system is, aka the more automated it is or the more accessible it is, like having it readily available on your phone, because let's face it, we're all pretty much glued to our phones these days anyway, the more likely you are to stick with it. And sticking with a budget is kind of a pinnacle portion to making sure that you're successful with your budget. So you just have to find an app that works for you. So if you're looking for the easiest way to know what's going on with your money, find an app that you like, link it with your account, and you're good to go. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to budget. I think all budgeting styles can work. What matters is that you find one that you like and one that you can stick to. Ultimately, to be successful with money management, you need to make sure that you're living below your means, that you're saving for your short-term goals, you're investing for your long-term goals, and you're leaving money left over to enjoy today. All budgeting styles strive to do these things. They simply do it in slightly different manners. What is your preferred budgeting style? Let me know in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.